it's 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m.
Yeah,
in Switzerland.
yeah.
Yeah. God bless
But
you.
my what's that? I didn't hear what you said, JD.
Oh, I just blessed you for getting up at or staying up till 2:30 to do this.
Yeah, my wife works in remotely on for a client in the U.S. So we both keep because I can set my own schedule. So I kind of keep her U.S. schedule. So it's not that big a deal. Usually I'm up until 2 anyway.
Very cool. Well, we only have 45 minutes due to the unpaid Zoom. So I
Right.
figured we go around really quickly and maybe 2 minutes each and or 2 or 3 minutes each and just describe what you're doing with respect to watches or who you are or just a little bit of an intro. So Dayton, you were already talking, so why don't you go ahead?
Okay. My name is Dayton Taylor. I have a YouTube channel called I Shoot Watches, and I guess I've been doing YouTube for about a year and a half, almost 2 years, and that's about the same length of time I've actually been working on watches. So the thing I did was I started. I I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos about watchmaking, and then I bought a watch, and I was like, I'm gonna try to repair this, but I'm gonna start my channel with that very first watch, and it's totally ridiculous, like with no skills to try to do it. But I thought eventually that'll be behind me, and it'll be funny to have that. And 2 years later, I'm still kind of struggling and making tons of mistakes. And I didn't think it would take this long to get better, but it's been really fun. So I keep doing it.
Yeah, very cool. I've watched some of your videos too. I think some of the early videos I watched where you were struggling, I was looking at them going, "Oh my God, I hope he doesn't do
And then I
that."
did it right.
There, oh yeah, there's a few of those. I was like, "Who is this guy? He actually does shoot watches." And Mike, what about you?
I'm Mike. My channel is Watch with Mike. My channel's been around about as long as Dayton's, I guess a year and a half, going on 2 years. And I got into watches for about 6 years. I've had a YouTube channel that was automotive centric, automotive and home
Oh,
repair. And I guess I got a little bit bored of that, and I started branching out, of course, looking at what was available on YouTube, and I started watching watch videos, and I just fell in love with it. It just looked like so much fun. I inherited a couple of family watches. The most important to me was my dad's. It was a
yeah.
early 1950s Bulova. It wasn't running, and I made up my mind I'm going to get this thing fixed. So I started watching videos, started fixing, and I've always loved photography, so it was a natural to be videotaping it both for archival and because I like making how-to videos. So I got the bug, and I started hitting up flea markets and finding watches, mostly Swiss watches or European made watches from the 1950s to, I'd say, mid 1970s. So that's really become a passion. And I call myself a watch repairer at this point, and I'm looking forward to someday being a watchmaker.
Are you in the U.S. right now?
Yeah, yeah, I'm right outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Okay, I'm up in Dayton's in Switzerland. Where are you in Switzerland, Dayton?
Geneva.
In Geneva? Okay, I've flown over it. I think on my way to Italy.
Oh yeah,
And
I read you. I've been to Turin a lot. Turin's a great city.
yeah, me too. I did work in aerospace in Torino. Torino.
Yeah.
So
Torino, same thing.
yeah, yeah. So Chris, yourself, will go through this anyway.
Yeah, so Chris Spinner from CS Spinner Watch Restorations. My channel, I think I posted my first watch repair video, I should say, in August of 2022. Um, it used to be a mountain biking channel, and then I sort of redid everything. I was training for a race. I was never really into watches before, but I was training for a race, and I found in the stream bed of South Carolina this old pocket watch that was just right embedded in there, and the brass was kind of looked pretty horrid, but the steel was of course all gone by that point. But I looked up a couple of videos on what it was, and then a lot of restoration videos, and I kind of fell in love and got the itch and wanted to do it myself. And that and wristwatches. So anything vintage and antique, I loved it. I don't really have a preference on whether it's pocket watches or wristwatches or Swiss or American made. I just love all things mechanical. So, and then figured, put a couple of videos up there and share with the world. And then I got a little bit of traction, so I figured I'll just keep doing it. So here I am.
That's cool.
Congratulations on, you just turned 10,000 subscribers. That's amazing in a little over a year.
Yeah, I've been trying to get to 10,000 for years, and I haven't done it yet. I've got like 8,500. I think, Chris, your production of your videos is a lot better than mine. I know that. I always give the excuse that I'm too busy. And I'm JD Richard. I am half French and half Swiss. So my mother came from Linz, Switzerland, just down from Zurich, and so that's where the Swiss comes in. And I started watchmaking. I really had a Seiko dive watch, the original from 1980, and I got it when I was in university, and it wasn't working, so I went to a watchmaker. It was running fast because it was dirty. Went to a watchmaker to get it fixed. I kept bugging him. Finally, he says, "Oh yeah, it's ready." And then I went to his shop, and he said, "Oh, I didn't take any pictures, and let me just sign the back here." And and then I didn't know anything, right? So I'd get it back home, and it still was running crappy, and he didn't do anything. He just gave it back to me. So I was getting a little bit pissed off. Got on YouTube. Wonder how you regulate a watch. And it all started. Some of my buddies started sending me their watches. Hey, you can regulate a watch, and it just started from there. And then halfway in, this was in, I think, around 2008 when I started, and halfway into that, I started getting into lathes and making balance staffs and stuff because I realized you couldn't always procure the parts. So I said, I'm going to have to make these things. So my channel's doing okay, and I started with guitar playing and stuff in my channel. I got a lot of music stuff, and I went into watchmaking, and I do all kinds of stuff. I put some flight simulation stuff up there the other day, so that's another hobby of mine. So that's what I'm all about.
When I was first starting out, JD, I was watching your channel. You were one of the first ones. There was a gentleman by the name of Unspecial.
Yeah.
Got a channel. I think he slowed down recently.
Yeah.
Love that channel. Loved your channel from the very beginning, from when I first started getting into it. Learned all about the tools. Like, I didn't know the first thing about. And then when you were making those settings on that lathe, and I was like, I can't imagine how much skill it takes to make something so intricate like that. It just fascinated me, and I just had to be part of it.
Yeah, I had no choice. I was actually doing repair on someone's watch, and this guy, and it was the first Franken watch. So I fixed the second Franken watch. I returned that about 2 weeks ago, and actually the gentleman, it's working really well. But the other watch I fixed for him, he said it's got a grinding thing when you wind it, so he's sending that one back. So I guarantee for life whatever I fix a watch. But the jewel setting was, I couldn't find a jewel setting anywhere. So I got off my butt. I opened one of my many books in my library, and I said, it can't be that hard. And so I started attacking it. I think I made one the second time. It worked, and it was a raised gold jewel setting, but I couldn't get 9-karat gold, so I used brass, or I think I used brass instead. And then when you shine it up, it looks just like gold. And so I gave the watch back to the gentleman. He's just out of New York, and he said it's working better than any of his other watches still to this day. So that made me feel pretty good, right? So what about you guys? What projects are you working on today, these days?
Oh boy. I just finished probably my hardest watch. I have a Benrus men's wristwatch from the early 1960s. And the guy that had this watch before I got it must have really loved this watch, because he wore a hole in the case under the winding stem. And of course, you probably didn't see it. Wow. And he probably just put it on and wound it every day. And so when I got it, the stem was locked up, wouldn't set, wouldn't wind, and took it apart. And at first it looked good. The movement was nice and shiny, but then I got down to the keyless works, and I had my first rust surprise. So I have that watch on my wrist right now. It still has a hole in the case. I'll probably be reaching out to the YouTube audience. Jeweler said that it was just too far gone to weld. So I'll probably just have to replace the case. But that project's on my editing bench right now. I hope to have that video out probably within the week.
And the rust, how did you get rid of the rust?
WD-40 and fiberglass. I have a fiberglass tiny brush and a little, I guess it's a bronze brush, just
Yeah.
abrasive brushes using naphtha, and then rinsing in isopropyl alcohol. And, after the WD-40 did all the heavy lifting.
That's
That was just like
that's
24 hours.
the very small pencil-like fiberglass brush, right?
Yeah, the
One.
little plastic kind of like a mechanical pencil
Yeah.
where you twist the end and a little bit of brush comes out.
I
Yeah.
think if we're all gonna lean down, we'll lean over and grab our fiberglass
Show
brush.
and tell time.
It's in here somewhere.
It's like we're taking SATs. Did you all bring your number 2 pencil?
Oh yeah, it's really funny actually. When Chris and I talked last week, every time we pulled out some tool, he's like, "I got one of those too." And
There are some tools that I was watching your Billy Watch video, JD, and then I realized that you do have a tool I don't have is the bench key, like kind of a staple, right? I don't have.
Oh yeah, you don't have these. They're.
I have a collection of these winding stems that have these like spare crowns.
Oh no, you got to get yourself some bench keys. Absolutely, they're priceless.
Pretty low rent.
What about you, Dayton? What are you working on these days?
Well, it's funny because I bought a lot of vintage watches before I had the idea of repairing them. So I would, as soon as I got them, I'd always look at them and be like, "Oh, I hope it works. I hope it works." And then recently, I've been like, I'm so excited when I get one that doesn't work because I'm like, I'm gonna be able to fix this. And so I'm like looking. When I look to buy something, I look for things that are kind of worse and worse instead of better and better. So it's fun to do that. But the last thing I did was a little trench watch, line 10.5 FHF silver trench watch, which is like, it's not a trench watch actually. I was reading on David Betcher's website that it's a lady's wristlet because it's so small, but it's like a pocket watch style watch, and it was in really bad shape, and it was fun because it was so old. Yeah, with the wire lugs. Yeah.
Right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just like that, but smaller though.
Or,
yeah.
Or one of these. See,
It's a round one, but yeah, those are nice. Yeah.
I got one of everything.
But yeah. So then I really bought that just like as something I thought I would probably not even try to fix. But then I was like, this is really fun because this thing is really old and nobody else is going to fix it, and it has a lot of problems. So, yeah, I think that's what turned the corner for me in terms of enjoying it. Like I was always worried before I was going to buy something nice and destroy it, and if you buy something really crappy, you might harm it, but you're probably in the aggregate, making it better. So,
Yeah.
My favorite thing that Callie Slabby, I mean, he has all the great wisdom if you watch Chronoglide, and he's one of my favorite channels I'm subscribed to. And he'll say, look, you get a watch that's broken, you try your best, and you fail, you're still left with a broken watch.
yeah.
But if nothing else, you took away some skills, some lessons. It's always a positive experience in the end.
Yeah.
I find that I'm not sure if you guys do watches for other people, but I don't buy any watches anymore. I do watches for other people, and it's scarier. Like I did the first Rolex I did a Rolex. It was a Sir Edmund Hillary commemorative watch, and this lady came over to my house, and I live in Ottawa, Canada. And she said it was her father's watch, and she got it from her grandfather, who gave it to the father to it. And I was like, and she begged me to work on it. I'm like, oh my God, this is scaring the crap out of me, right? Because I knew that one slip of the screwdriver and you've scratched the gold because it was gold. And when you start doing the work with near the hairspring or with the balance and that sort of thing, you can't, get another hairspring like that. That'll be that would be not sure what you'd do. So those kinds of watches scare me. I've done quite a few of them. I've done 3 Rolexes now. I put a new tube into a Rolex a couple of years back, and every time you get another challenge, you got to buy another tool, right? So I still do watches just for people. And the Billy watch I just made the video is for a friend of mine that I knew we were buddies in grade 4, 5, and 6, and he joined the Canadian Navy, and I met him again in probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I told him what I did as a hobby. He says, "Oh, can you fix my watch?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I got it running. It's running really nicely now. So it's and I made some videos with it. So that's
Yeah, I have a pile of watches that I started just buying the watches on eBay, and the ones that was interesting, I fixed them up. But then with the channel, most people are reaching out to me with watches that are way more interesting than anything that I would be willing to spend the money on eBay. And I shoot some of them, but yeah, it's scary. Especially it's one thing you're working on a 15 jewel Waltham where they made like 600,000 of them. It's like, all right, well, I have a safety net, right? I could probably find a donor if push comes to shove. I'm accountable for the success of getting this working again, and especially at least not making it any worse. But when you're talking about someone's date just from 1985, it's like, okay, what's the consequence of doing something bad to this balance? And you really got to be extra careful. Every move is deliberate. Don't drink coffee right before that.
Well, yeah, I've said that a few times as well. You got to be nice and calm. Yeah, it's scary stuff. And pulling that wheel off the top there, those Rolexes, they have that wheel that sits on top of the plate, and you've got to have that special tool, or you've got to be very careful and try to remove that wheel because it's friction fit. So
for the
he's looking for it's probably on your carpet there, Chris. Get out your giant magnet, the one you talked about last time.
I have a video. It's scheduled for mid-January. It is a JHS, and it's got it running great, but it was consistently 9 seconds fast. So I got the microstella adjustment. You ever see one of those at the angle? And you stick it in the balance, and you literally just twist these screws while the balance is in the watch. And I'm IMing a couple of professionals that I chat with on Facebook. I'm like, "Are you absolutely sure I can do this? Because I swear, if I snap this pivot," and he's like, no, it's designed for that. You just got to do it, I'm like, the Rolex thing says grab the balance with the tweezers. I'm like, I am not on board with that either. He's like, no, don't grab it with the tweezers, just do it. And it was one of the scariest things I've done, but it worked.
That's not like these things, right? These are the vintage ones that you use for grabbing the screws on a balance.
So no. So it's a screwless balance. It's a free-sprung Breguet balance. So there's no regulator arm. There's no regulator pins. See, the only way to time the watch is to turn these little screws that are on the inside of the balance.
Okay.
There's 2 pairs of them, and each little increment changes them by a second or 2 per day per equal turn. And you need this little proprietary tool to get in there and like flip it over the star of the tool, and then you gotta like kind of turn it
without breaking the pivot.
Where I put that thing.
I think I would start drinking if I had to do that. What about you, Mike?
I think I have never charged anyone for working on a watch. I've fixed some friends' watches, and they've been good friends. So I knew if I made it worse or kept it the same, that it wouldn't endanger the friendship. I don't know. It's these fears that you're describing that make me timid about saying I'll fix someone else's watches, as a service for money. If someone wants to, just pay me for parts just to take a look at it, I guess after a year and a half, I think I have the confidence to do that now. But it just scares me. I mean, like, JD, Chris, like you said, the slightest move, and there's not parts availability.
Yeah.
You're set back quite a bit. So there's a fear to getting over the hump. In the meantime, too, I'm really enjoying doing these things and, fixing them and wearing them. And I've gifted a lot of them. And so that's just kind of the buzz for me right now. But who's to say what the future holds?
Yeah.
What are you all wearing right now? What's on your wrist?
Oh, I'm guilty. Apple titanium with a fake Rolex face. But I do have very nice gold Bulova Marine Star within reach. This is a really nice watch. That's a Marine Star, and then I have the watch that you can get Arnold Schwarzenegger biceps with this one here, and it's a Citizen dive watch. These are all within reach. They're actually on the window because I'm using the sun to get them all powered up.
I do the exact same thing.
And
I got
then,
a Citizen Eco Drive that's sitting on the windowsill.
yeah, this
you
is
put it in
a,
a drawer and it just destroys it.
that's a Blue Angels.
So there's an Eco Drive for you.
Yeah, there you go. That's a Blue Angels, US, whatever. So anyway, I probably have around, I don't know, probably close to 60, 70 watches. And I know I have around, I know I got about 130 pocket watches now.
Wow.
Like Walthams, Elgins, all types. I took a photo. I'll send you a photo sometime of the, like after this meeting, maybe I'll just email you a shot. Cause I threw about 3/4 of them on the carpet, and I took a picture and I sized them as well. So, and I got some really funky ones that they're old and ones that I you know, the bridges are on the balance is not on a balance cock, it's on a bridge. And I made a video on the what is it called, the one that's where the whole mainspring is the size of the watch, the Hebdomus. It's called a Hebdomus watch, and it was a vintage Hebdomus. It's a 7-day watch. It's a pocket watch, right? And I had to make a tool to take the mainspring off because it had these two funky little holes, and so I had to build a tool out of brass to grab those two holes at the exact right place and twist that thing off. And then I had everybody wanting me to fix their Hebdomus watch. So I'm like, I didn't even want to do mine. Okay, so
All the Hebdomas people coming out of the woodwork.
oh yeah, there's like Hebdomites. They're all over the place. You're spraying them off with water like a cat, right?
Well, the watch I'm wearing is a Seiko Bellmatic,
look
which
at that.
is can't get it to focus there, but I wear that when I have to remember time of something. So I wore it for this meeting, so I would not work through the start time.
Is that vintage?
And in terms of working on other people's watches, I doubt I would ever do that for a number of reasons. But the one being, I hope I get good at this, but that's not my aim. Is really to understand how watches work, and to have a real feeling for how complicated watches work. And I feel like I shouldn't admit this publicly, but taking things apart, it's definitely important to put it back together, and I enjoy that. But it's kind of like the fun part for me is going in there and taking it apart. And so I just think probably by the time, at some point, I'm going to know everything I want to know, and I'm just not going to get that skilled at it. I'm just going to feel like, okay, now I know how watches work.
No, you'll get a lot better. I remember having a couple of years under my belt and still having issues with everything, right? And you do get better. It becomes almost second nature, I think. And the main thing is, like, whenever you get a challenge, right, research the heck out of it, right? That's what I do. I just research the heck out of it. Like I said, I've got a big library of watchmaking books. I bought all the videos for watchmaking. I bought Tasconi's, the gentleman I talked to you about, Chris, last time, with the guy who used to do James Cameron's electronic setup for his movies, like the Titanic and stuff. And he's a watchmaker and a clockmaker, and he lives in New Mexico. And I bought all his video series on how to use lathes, and there was another gentleman, I can't remember his name, but anyway, I bought another gentleman's pocket watch. So I just shoved my brain with knowledge, and I had more fun learning than doing. I just was amazed, like you were, about it. So I think it's, you buy more books. I got books up here in my wall here I probably will never read, right? The practical course and minute adjustments of whatever, and it gets in. I'm an engineer by degree, electrical engineer, and it gets into the math and the theory behind all this. And if you get into lathes someday, which you should do, I think you get into the watch stuff, get to a point where you got to make a part or do something with a lathe, and then buy your first lathe, and it's a whole other game, right? And if you're not a machinist, and I mean, Mike, you probably know about lathes because you worked on automobiles and stuff. I'm sure you need to do work on lathes, but get into lathes.
Yeah, JD, no, I am gearing up to purchase a lathe. I've done some basic woodworking, turning, but nothing machining, nothing working in metal. It fascinates me, and it scares me just a little bit, and just the scale of what I'm seeing people do. In the
door opener.
Chris, JD, these are just absolutely incredible. It's like magic to me. I want to be able to learn to do that someday.
It's a lot of
sort
fun.
Of like when you're starting out watchmaking and you get to a certain point, you decide, okay, my big investment is going to be the staking set, right? $200, $300, sometimes $400, depending on which version you get, how complete it is. But the staking set alone was like the big step change in your capabilities and what you're able to accomplish and repair. The lathe is equivalent to that. Like if you keep going and you just keep learning and keep acquiring knowledge and desire to kind of do more, then the lathe is going to be like, okay, these 12 parts watches that are in the drawer because I need to make a stem, or I need to make a screw, or whatever the case may be, or I need to adjust a setting. The lathe opens so many doors, just like the staking set did when you first got the staking set. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Chris, your recent video about the lathe that you got and restored it's so informative and such a great video. Like, I started thinking about a lathe and I found that video and I was like, man, this is great, because like you go through it all. And the problem is I probably watched that 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago, and now I can't remember. That's another thing that's hard about these tools, is like, it's just endless. Like, and you have to, it's not enough to, or that's part of the thing of tactile learning, is like, you can't just read about the tools, you also have to do it. Like, you can't become or at least I can't. I have to go through some kind of rote process to actually learn anything.
Yeah, you have to fail.
I'm scared of lathes because I'll probably buy 6 of them before I figure out which one is the right one to have,
I've got 13.
JD, how many lathes do you have?
I got 13 lathes.
Oh, really? Oh, that's good. That's good to know.
And I have videos on how to make belts. I think, Chris, you probably saw one of my videos.
I used that video.
Oh, did you?
Every time I go and I need to do something, like, I wonder if JD already did that. I can probably feel what he did.
Yeah, I figured out a way of making belts out of leather bootlaces and using a 5-pound fishing line, and then holding it with one of the tools you use for actually broaching hands. So and capturing it in the hand broaching tool, and then sewing like this, and then opening it up. And then the first one I did, I remember it wasn't on the lathe. It's like, you idiot, right? You got to have it inside, right? So I did it. I was so proud of myself. I did it, and I was like, I looked down and go, shit, it's not in the lathe. I had to take it apart.
There's a special plastic that I've seen lots of people use, right?
Yeah,
for that, it's like a rubber that melts to itself really well.
Yeah, it's shitty.
Yeah, I was not successful at the leather belt, the leather shoelace approach, JD. I ended up going with the melted.
Are you serious?
Rubber belt.
I have all my lathes.
It was like bump, bump, bump. I couldn't get it to go smoothly.
Really? Oh man, all my lathes are running with the leather shoelace, and they're smooth as hell. I went to the leather lace because I found when you melt the two together, I know how to do it. You take a knife, you heat it up, you put it in the middle, and you put the two together, and you slide the knife out, right? And you use
the bump.
it. Yeah, there can be a bit of a bump. You got to kind of eyeball it and hold it, right, while you're doing it, and then shave off the bulbous material, the seam that comes out. Shave that off, and it'll work, right? It's good, but I mean the leather lathe. I mean it's so nice. Like, you can't, if you snag your graver for some reason, you don't have to have the leather, you don't have to have the counter shaft super tight with the lathe, so it'll slide, right? The leather will slide, but it gives enough grip to never have to worry about it sliding at the wrong time. So, and I always buy a counter shaft with the lathe. Like, buy yourself a good counter shaft, and I buy the Burrell stand, Borel, I think, or something. Burrell stand. You can still buy them for $45 US from Burrell, the watch company. And then you mount the lathe on there, and you mount the counter shaft on there, and then you buy a sewing machine motor. And the sewing machine motor's just right and they come with pedals. You can get them on Amazon with a sewing machine motor with a pedal. But I think I may have told you, Chris, I fixed this local guy's wife's mother's watch and he was a sewing machine maintenance guy. And he had this huge box of sewing machine motors. He said, take as many as you want. If you run out, come back and get some more. So I got like 7 or 8 sewing machine motors. so yeah, it's and again, I asked this Tasconi gentleman who's like an expert in lathes. I phoned him up one night and talked to him about what oil should I use for the lathe, for the spindle.
Yeah, it's a controversial topic.
Yeah, and he said the best oil to use was 0W20 synthetic. And this guy knows his stuff, right? So I've used that ever since.
I settled on the mobile one.
And I always have it ready just in case I need to use it.
Spindle oil, because that was the one that got the most consensus across the 12 different forums with the least amount of arguments. Very data-driven decision.
Chris, did you say you have more than that one lathe that the recent videos about?
No, it's just that Foley. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know, because that's like yeah. I wouldn't want to buy 13, but I was happy to hear that JD did, because that's kind of what I expected.
Yeah, you'll do it.
Yeah. Well, I've heard there's a case being made for the dirty. There's a dirty lathe you would have for, you put the diamond wheel on it to sharpen your carbide gravers. You don't want that carbide dust going in your good lathe. But I've rigged up a thing with my polishing wheel. I put the diamond wheel on the polishing wheel, and I have like a jig that I sharpen hone up my gravers on.
I use these plates from China, these diamond plates from China, and I can usually get my gravers. The gravers are really small. They're as you see, the ones I use for doing balance staffs, and they are. Let me grab one here. Hang on. Everything is within reach. I could just basically lose my legs, and I could still do watch work. That's just a tool for lathe stuff. This is all for lathes.
Oh, nice.
And in here, I've got a few things that are important. I'll just try to be really fast here. Apologize. I'm be cognizant of time here. Yeah, so one thing you have to do is get yourself a couple of good stones, like these. Right? And you can look up the Arkansas stone, and I can't remember which one's which, but I think this is the Arkansas one. But you need the stone, and these stones have a rounded edge and a sharp edge as well. So if you're doing cones on a like you're doing the conic shape of a pivot, you need the rounded one, and it's for finishing off the pivots. And the gravers I use, and I've said it a few times on my channel, I keep them in a pack of 4 here, and they come in individual packs. And I got four flat and 4 round, 2 flat and 2 round, and they look like this. If I can get a focus there, you see that? That's the end of them there. So that's 2 millimeters on the end, and they kind of, they look like that. They're very small, and so I can start off with the 4 millimeter one and take off a lot of material, and then I go to the 2 millimeter when I'm getting closer to the pivot and I don't want to break the pivot off. And you really have to focus because you're doing this by hand. And then and I finish it off with, and you probably have one of these, Chris, I suspect, because you have every tool I do. One of these Bergeron tools, right?
Yeah, not the double-ended, but yep.
Yeah, one of them is
one rounded side and one.
Yeah, they got a rounded side and 3 square sides, or 3 90-degree angle sides. This here is a file, so you can remove material. And this is a burnisher. So the last thing I do on a part is I'll burnish it with that, right? So that just smoothens and hardens the metal for the last stage of the of pivot making. And I get the local clock dudes come by my place all the time, and they're wanting me to drill holes for repivoting and stuff like that. So you got to get a lathe, gentlemen. Don't stop.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, before we run out of time, I wanted to thank both of you guys for all the incredible videos that you've uploaded, and JD in particular. Like, you've done so many things where you focus on one specific thing, and that your advice about researching stuff. Your videos are a great go-to for those specific things, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. I need you guys to hit it 2,000 more times. Something.
You'll get there. Big
okay.
weekend for Watchmaking YouTube, though. They had Red Dead Restoration put out a great one on Friday.
Oh yeah.
Or was it Thursday? I don't remember. Watches
Yep.
just dropped his first one in a couple of months. Today, I just watched the first 2 minutes of it, but I just know the pain that watch put him through, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that restoration. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, there's really good, like yourself, Chris. You do amazing productions. Like I told you, I still work, so I don't have time myself, even though my kids are all gone, to do that. Maybe I just get too much ADHD and I want to do something else. And my form of a video, I got a lot of talking, a lot of humor, and a lot of extra stuff that some people might like, and other people may say, "I wish you would shut up and just fix the watch."
No, I really like that too.
It's part of the personality of the channel. I like it.
It's my stand-up comedy from university, mixed with watches. So, Mike, any last comments before we have to? I think we got 4 minutes left. So,
Well, JD, thanks for coming up with this idea to get on the airwaves and do a chat. I've really enjoyed this. Chris, congratulations on the continued success. Dayton, it's always good catching up with you. It's just a pleasure to be around people that have such enthusiasm